Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Could you comment that on the chat onto your right-hand side so that I can make sure you can all hear me audible? I am audible to you. And good morning, Lania. Oh yeah, good morning, Rishma. So, people who are new to today's session, what I would like to request you is today, we will be taking through one of the modules which we had discussed yesterday. And for any questions pertaining to the discussion today, which we are having, if you have any questions regarding my discussion or our discussion, you are more than pleased to put in your questions on the chat board, which is there on your right hand side towards the bottom of the screen. And I would really advise, if you have an option of using a laptop or a desktop, that would be really good, because maybe when you use your mobile phones, there is a possibility of interruption of network. So to avoid that, I'm not saying that you can't use it. You can definitely use a mobile device for this, but to avoid any interruption with regards to the reception of the audio and video, definitely I would recommend if you could use a laptop or a desktop, looking at your availability as well. Yeah. Okay. I hope people are just logging in. So, okay. Okay, let me just tell you what are the plans for today. I'll be taking you through the speaking module today. And let me tell you what are we going to do for the entire session. We will first discuss about the criteria which has been set by the by OET for you while speaking. For example, while you're speaking, what are the things which they are looking at and how they are assessing you during your speaking. So we would discuss about that first, one by one, in detail, I would say. All these criterias would be discussed. You can even ask questions in between, absolutely no problem. Pop in your questions on the chat board. And after that, we will take one of the role play card, and we would discuss on that, how to do that particular role play card. And maybe um, a task would be assigned to you. For that, you can go home and practice. When you get back, when you're done with the session, you can revise these criterias and things like that. And this is how I'm going to plan today's session. So first of all, welcome all of you to the speaking session today. So please feel free to ask questions. Don't think that whether it's a right question or a wrong question. Don't think about that. Whatever comes into your mind, please pop up the question. We never know, whether it's a good question or a bad question. So there is nothing like a bad question at all. But however, whatever question comes into your mind, please pop up or put into the chat board so that I can look into it and try to answer those, so that everyone would benefit out here. By asking questions, it is more of like you all of you are benefiting. one person asks a question, and maybe another person is trying to figure out how to ask that question. So it's going to benefit, each other. So whatever questions comes to your mind, please pop up at the chat, okay? And yes, so let's quickly look at the criterias. So let me bring that to the screen. Okay, these are the criterias. As I said, as I told you yesterday, with regards to the criterias regarding speaking, there are two criterias which has been laid down by the OET. That is the linguistic criteria and the clinical, criteria. So we have so that is the linguistic criteria and the clinical communication criteria. So we have two criteria has been set, and these are the factors which decides or assesses. These are the things, or these are the criteria based on which you are being assessed when you are doing your speaking. Okay, so let's look quite deeply into each criteria one by one. So let's look into this. As you might see, the first criteria that let's take the linguistic criteria. Okay, this criteria actually carries the most number of scores. This is where you can score more than compared to the clinical communication criteria. Okay, so you would see the score ratings on to the left hand side, that is 0 to 6. Yeah, these are the bands. This is how they assess you in your speaking. So what are the things which you need to really focus? So well, let's take things one by one. Okay, so the thing is that the first thing is intelligibility. So I just slightly explained to you or discussed about what is intelligibility yesterday, but let's look that in a deep form. So intelligibility is all about pronunciation, giving a clarity to the listener, or the listener does not have to take any strain understanding you. See, in simple words, that is what intelligibility means. So basically, when you are speaking in English, the person who listens to you should not have any sort of difficulty in understanding you, in having the ideas clearly imparted to the listener. All these things is represents the intelligibility. So in detail, let's go into detail with regards to intelligibility. So in intelligibility, yes, pronunciation. You need to pronounce each and every word very clearly, and the pronunciation should be adequate. See, one of the major problems most of the candidates possess or have is the right pronunciation. uh, we need to focus on that. If you have a good pronunciation on each word, if you pronounce the words correctly, to an extent you would be able to overcome the intelligibility problem. So you can score a better score in this particular criteria. Apart from that, you also needs to stress. So what are the things which you really needs to focus when we say intelligibility? For the first thing I said is pronunciation. So pronunciation is it's contradicting or using other sub segments like the stress factor, the intonation, the rhythm. These are the things which actually helps you to have a good pronunciation. For example, the stress factor. Sometimes when certain words needs to be stressed, certain words, uh, you know, uh, when you use the syllables, basically, you need to actually sometimes stress some words, some letters. Sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes you have to keep that particular letter silent in a word. Okay, so these things are needs to be focused on. So first thing is that when you get a word, or you have to determine by yourself what are the common words, okay, or the common sentences, or the common what are the common style of speaking in yourself. So once you determine that, you would be able to find the common words which you would use on your normal speaking. So the first thing is, try to correct or try to use the right pronunciation to those words first. That's how you can start developing yourself in your speaking. So try to put in a bit of effort in the right pronunciation. The pronunciation doesn't mean that everybody has intuition or thinking that when you say about pronunciation, it's all about the accent. Okay, no, it's absolutely not. Okay, all you have to do is you need to maintain a very neutral accent. You don't have to be you don't have to speak in British accent or an American accent or an Australian accent. It doesn't matter. It's not at all necessary. All you need to do is you need to speak in a neutral accent. Okay, so that with the right pronunciation and the right stress, the right intonation, and the right rhythm. If all these things are in place, the accent, and you use a normal accent, the neutral accent, that's all you require. OET does not specify or does not say that you need to have this accent in place, you need to have this in place. No. All they say is that to use a neutral accent, okay, which is quite clear for the listener to understand. So that is the basic, or the first or the primary thing which you have to do while you're doing your speaking. Okay, so the first thing, as I said, is the pronunciation. So focus on the pronunciation and keep in mind that how how simply can you make the other person understand using your voice. Okay, your voice is very important. As I said, when you're doing your pronunciation, yes. So your voice needs to be, very clear, louder, and all these things needs to be there. Okay, we will have we will sorry about it. Okay, so we will just quickly go through the. I hope intelligibility is being understood by everyone. Do you have any questions with regards to this particular criteria? If you do have, please pop up your questions on the chat in the chat. Anybody has any questions with regards to the first criteria which we have discussed today? Okay, I do see that no clear. Yes, clear. Okay, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I hope you're quite clear with the first criteria, that is intelligibility. Okay. So let's quickly move on to the next criteria, that is fluency. So what do you mean by fluency? Uh, Fluency is it's all about mm, making your or doing your speaking. Okay, I think I have a question here with regards to the earlier criteria, that is intelligibility. Danya has asked a question. Any tips can you mention to improve our pronunciation? Definitely, yes. Now, all you have to do is, like, when you have a word in place with regards to your um, uh, if you see that your pronunciation is not that good, all you have to do is speak up and try to record your conversation in some sort of recorder, maybe in your mobile device, and listen to it and see. Or maybe the good thing is that if you go through there are some sort of applications online where you can read and listen to certain paragraphs or certain context. For example, you will be having a hard copy or a soft copy on your mobile when you download that app, and meanwhile they will read it for you. Okay, so what you have to do is like select those type of applications, read through it, and try to, before you listen to that audio, first you read it and record it, and later, once you read it and record it, and listen to the audio which is there on that particular app, then you would be able to make up the right pronunciation. Okay, to get the clear pronunciation, you can Google it up and definitely get the pronunciation from Google. So that is very simple. So that is one tip I would like to provide you with. All you have to do is like first try to get the pronunciation right is by just doing that correctly. Okay, I think that would be clear, Danya. Is that okay? Okay, so let's move on to the fluency criteria. Okay, so what do you mean by fluency? Fluency is been stated as uh, you do your speaking without any hesitation or without any interruption. Okay, that determines your fluency in English. For example, why do you come up with hesitation? When you have a blockage of mind, most of the times, most of the people comes up with hesitation is when you don't get words, or you show signs of searching of words, what you need to present or what you need to tell the others. Yeah, so you are a bit of blank at times, searching for words or the appropriate words. Okay, that actually hinders you or obstructs you from having a fluency. So we need to develop something called you need to avoid hesitation. So how would you avoid hesitations while speaking? That can be only done by practice. All I would say is that the best thing to avoid hesitation and avoid a natural speaking coming to you is by doing a lot of practice in speaking, especially speaking with your colleagues, speaking with your, whoever who could assist you with English speaking. So that actually would, really, really help you to improvise on your fluency. Okay, fluency is also consisting about the normal speech. Here, you need to also make sure that your speed, the normal speed, for example, we tell it as the pace of your speaking. Fluency also has been determined in the speed as well. For example, some of them, normally we being, Kerala, we speak Malayalam, so our normal tone of or the way of speaking in Malayalam is quite fast. Yeah, we need to bring it down comparatively when you're speaking in English. Okay, so we intend to speak in a speedy manner, but we need to bring it down. So that again depends upon each scenarios. When you get a scenario, maybe to a teenager, you do not require to speak in very low pace. You don't have to. Low pace means a very low speed. Okay, but when it comes to elderly person, yes, definitely. You have to bring down your pace, okay, for that, so that the elderly person can understand you very clearly. Okay, so that also needs to be kept in mind. So, to a normal person, yes, we need to basically maintain the same pace of the listener or the person whom we are communicating with. So that needs to be kept in mind. It's not that the other person is maintaining your pace. Okay, basically what you're going to do is like you are going to maintain a pace which is very comfortable for the other person to do so. So that is what you should be doing. During your mock sessions also, or during your exams, you should first figure out what is his pace. Okay, what is the intercalator's pace of speaking? Uh, that is the first thing when you have to do. See, when you go through your test day, when you go through the test day, as explained to you yesterday, uh, you will be first doing a warm-up session with your interlocutor. Okay? So during that time, definitely you can figure out what is his pace, correct? So you have that in your mind. Okay, I'm not saying that you completely follow that. You have that in your mind and speak accordingly. So that is what you should be doing with your entire speaking, whether it's a test day or whether it's a normal day, whether in your you're speaking with anybody. You need to maintain these type of uh, you know um, speed or speech pattern or the pace. Okay, so that is one thing which is very important because we need to make the other person uh, to understand. You see, if you go in a higher pace, definitely the person might not be able to cope up with you and or maybe to understand you very clearly. See, our purpose is to make the other person understand things very clearly without repetitions. Okay, uh, so some of the factors which hinders in normal speech or fluency is repetitions or maybe hesitations, like you would have some sort of difficulty in expressing or the long pauses. Okay, I'm not saying that you should not have pauses. You should not have long pauses. You should have pauses, and there should be short pauses. Okay, so that needs to be there. That is being influenced in your fluency. You need to have a very short pauses so that the other person understands you. You're giving a break for you're showing some sort of pauses so that the other person can understand what you have said. Okay, and also giving a break when it's a if it's a long sentence, okay, which you're creating or you're saying, it's always better you give a pause in between, and you need to make sure that when you provide a pause, you put that at the right time and the right place. That those things can only be achieved by speaking and maybe listening to certain people, listening to different conversations. All these things would definitely help you in this, mm, improvising on your fluency. And you know, utterance, for example, having repetition of certain words. Normally, what happens is like you want to say something and you are short of words. Okay, you don't know what to say. So normally, people what they do is like they intend to repeat the same words again and again. And at times, you also do self corrections. Self corrections in the sense you try to correct yourself. Okay, you have to really think. So to achieve all these things, a normal pace would really help you. If you maintain a normal pace in speaking, you will get the time to think about the next word which you want to say or the next sentence which you want to say. All these things. If you follow a high pace of speaking or a speed of speaking, you would not be able to think about or think of what is the next word or what is the next sentence. So you always, and that is up to each person, how you would be able to, how long you should have poses on things like that. Okay, you can also apply stresses in between to get more time for you. Okay, so that also helps you to get more time and to reduce your speed and to bring up more things in your speaking and also to have a good fluency in your speaking. So, uh, do you have any questions with regards to the second criteria which we discussed about? So, if you have any, please. Okay. How to? Okay, I do have a question here. Okay. Rubina, I think Rubina says that I can't hear anything. Could you please check with your audio device, please? I hope every others are able to, everyone else, they can uh, hear, I presume. Okay, I do have Vishnu Priya. I do have Vishnu Priya having a question placed in um, that how to improve fluency. Okay, fluency can be fluency impacts different factors as we have discussed today. For example, mm, the speed, the pace of your speaking, also hesitation. Maybe you're having your poses or words structuring or maybe repetitions, uh, you know, utterance causes basically like mumbling sounds and things like that, or maybe all these things are factors. So all what you can do, you can get your fluency is only by practicing. Okay, you need to practice a lot, listen to yourself and correct yourself. That is one of the way where you can develop your fluency. And also definitely yes, to maintain a good pace. That should be your focus first. You need to maintain a good pace. You need to have good pauses in between so that you give yourself some time to think about the next word or the next sentence which you want to deliver. Okay, so most of the times your fluency is being affected because of hesitation to use appropriate words or structures. Okay, so the only way of doing that to avoid that is giving appropriate time. So bringing down your rate of speech and using stress factors, intonations, and things like that into the place. So I hope that is clear to you. Now we do have another question stating that Marin has asked, does it affect score if you repeat words? Definitely yes. See, these are the criteria which we have. So this is how you are being assessed in your speaking. Yes. So definitely repetition of words and repetition of sentences definitely would affect you in your speaking, in your score. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions? So can you, okay, I do have Soumya Babu asking about, can you say about the rate of speech? Yes. Soumya, as I said, explained to you about the rate of speech to determine, for example, let's say the rate of speech is determined depending upon each person. For example, the way I'm speaking right now, I have a normal rate of speech so that you can understand me, right? If I speak in a high rate of speech without any stops, things like that, I go on and go on and go on and go on. So it would be quite difficult for the listeners to understand me, right? So that is what that this is how we control our rate of speech. Yes, in the beginning, it would be a person who is having a high rate of speech. It would be quite difficult for him to bring down that, but you need to really, really try hard to bring that. See, what is our purpose in speaking? See, when you're communicating, what is the purpose of communicating? We are communicating for so that the other person who listens to you can understand you very well, right? So that is the purpose of our communication. So we need to make it, very clear, or we need to make the other person understand uh, us very well. So that is why fluency is very necessary here. Okay, whether it's the test day or the normal scenarios, fluency is quite necessary so that the other person, you know, understands you very well. Or normally, what happens is like when you normally listen to a person who has a higher rate of speech, we intend to even ask them, could you repeat that again? Or pardon me, please. All these questions are being placed, right? It's because that you did not understand the person, or he was on a higher rate of speech. At times, we don't even, we are not, we don't even get interested in listening to that person. Yes, because he has a higher rate of speech. So these are some of the things which you could try by yourself by to reduce. So basically, by applying stress and process so that you can bring down your rate of speech, or so that you can improve your fluency as well, so the other person can easily understand you. I hope I am clear with that, sir. Do you have any further questions? You're welcome, Soumya. And any further more questions? Okay, I do see that. Clear, 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 clear. Okay, so I hope everything is everyone that yes. Okay, Vijimon, everybody is saying it's clear. Please don't be hesitant. Okay, so I do have a question here. How can we improve our ideas? Example, examiner or something we don't have nothing to say. Um, yes. How can we improve our idea is basically, mm, you know, so it depends upon the question basically. So they don't ask any questions which are not pertaining to your, the scenario. Definitely not. And the scenario is basically based on the health care environment, right? So I don't think since you are all from the healthcare environment, definitely you'd be able to have some sort of an answer. Okay, let's say that you don't have an answer to the question. Okay, what you can do is like, for example, you've been asked about something, so you don't know exactly what it is all about. Okay, so you can definitely put in a state that I'm sorry that I don't have the answer at this point of time, but I can get you the right answer. You can definitely say that by checking with someone, or checking with the senior, or maybe checking with a doctor. Or you can even direct the person who asks a question where he or she can get the answer from. Okay, you can at least show the way to the person where you can get that answer. Yeah. So is that clear, Vijimon? Okay. So this is how we do. See, for every time, as I said, we don't have, we might get, stuck, or you don't have an answer to certain things. So you can use these techniques. This is what we normally do, right? In our normal speaking, what do we do when we don't have an answer? We go ahead and check in where we can find the answer, or we check with people who does have an answer to it, or we direct the person who asked you the question to the right way where he can find the answer. So these are the things what we normally do. That's what you can do when you're doing your speaking. Okay, so that is a good way of doing it. Okay, so any further questions to this? Any further more questions? Please feel free to ask any type of questions with regards to the speaking. Please. I hope nobody has any questions. Yeah. Okay. So with that, we would move on to uh, the next criteria, that is appropriateness of language. So what do we mean by the appropriateness of language? See, the appropriateness of language means how you use the register, the tone, the lexemes for the context. For example, the usage of the right, uh, lexicals or the words, or the right usage of expressions, the right usage of grammar. To take a quick example, okay, the usage of uh, grammatical expressions, okay, or the right usage of tone. For example, you can say certain things uh, in different tones, right? Okay, for example, let's say uh, um, if you want to say, I'm just taking a simple example, you want to say to a person that to stop there, uh, you can say stop there. Okay, so that is a normal way of saying that he might not take it very seriously. But if you say with a tone, please stop there. So that is the tone which you tell to the person so that he understands we are quite, or the person who says that, please stop there, means that we are implying to that with great importance, or we are saying that we are demanding him to stop. So this is an example which I'm just would like to demonstrate to you using the tone. So I'm not saying that you should be rude when you are speaking. So I'm not illustrating that you should be rude when you're speaking. All you have to do is that simply um, all you have to do is like apply the right tone. You need to be polite, but you need to use the right tone at the right time. Okay, so this is what you should do when you have um, when you're using the right tones. Okay, so excuse me, just give me a quick minute. I think I need to have a pause to it. Just give me a quick minute, please. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry for the interruption with regards to, because I was just my charger wasn't. Um, Can you just, Rubina, I do see that you have some sort of difficulty in hearing me and you can't see the video. So, Rubina, I would really suggest, you log in again and see if you could, or you need to focus on the audio and the video clips, okay? Or even the audio needs to be checked, okay. Maybe you can re-log in and see that. You can try that again. Okay, so coming back to the appropriateness of language. Okay. See, we need to use to have the right register, tone, and lexical for the context. For example, so what do you mean by register is that you need to apply the right um, you know the sounds basically to be very clear. You need to apply the sound levels. For example, when we speak, we have the ups and downs while you're speaking, right? So that is what is called a register. Okay, when a person does his singing, when you sing, or when anybody sings, what we notice is why do that singing is been very auspicious to our ears. It's because there is some ups and downs, right? The pitch changes. Okay, so that needs to be done when you're speaking. So that is called the register. And your tone, the tone is the right amount of stress applied when you are speaking, or the right amount of pitch. Okay, the right amount of pitch needs to be applied when when you do your speaking. So that is what is called the appropriateness of language. See, when you're using different tones and when you're applying different ways of speaking, you can actually give different meanings to different words and sentences. For example, if you need to give the right meaning, you need to apply the right tone. Okay, so for example, we say that the first example which I told you, please stop there. Okay, so that is a polite way of saying. But when I apply, please stop there, that is some sort of, not a rude one, but it's a bit more, you know, um, forceful, or something like an order has been placed. Yes, so the tone is what determines your politeness and things like that. So that is what is called the appropriateness of language. Okay, so it is very necessary that you need to um, apply the right tone and the right register when you're speaking, and also the right words, and the uh, you know, right words at the right time. Okay, so basically, when you say to use the vocabulary, don't use any words. When they're saying about using vocabulary and things like, what OET is expecting you to do is to use very simple words. Okay, but different similar words. Maybe at times try to not to repeat the same words again and again. Try to find similar words for it. That's it. That's it. What you have to do. So small words. I'm not saying that very high-end words needs to be used when you're speaking. No, it is not really necessary. Okay, to show your vocabulary skills, or to show your knowledge of English. No, you don't have to. All you have to do is use simple words, but similar words. That is what OET is expecting. Okay, so I hope you have understood the criteria, that is appropriateness of language. Do you have any questions with regards to this? I think Rubina is still having some sort of issue. Rubina, I think could you check with your reception with regards to the internet, so that could maybe help you with to have a good reception. Maybe you could move on to a good reception area. Okay. Yeah, any further questions with regards to the appropriateness of language or intelligibility or fluency? Any questions, please go ahead and ask. Uh, I think no one has any questions. No, 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 no. Mhm. Okay, I do see a lot of people typing in. Clear. Okay, so clear, 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 clear. Okay, okay, okay. I hope everything has been clear here. Okay, so let's move on to the next criteria in linguistic, that is resources of grammar and expression. Yes, Shaitli, yes, we need to practice. So you have to practice a lot more to attain all these criteria to your, speaking. Yes. Okay. Okay. So what do you have to do? Okay, let's come to the resources of grammar and expression. Okay. And so what is the what is resources of grammar and expression? See, the usage of vocabulary. So that is what is pertaining to the resources of grammar and usage of the right words without any errors, with little error. Okay, that is the that is what has been mentioned, or that is what has been assessed in this particular criteria. For example, mm, using the right meaning or the right word which specify the right meaning to that particular concept. For you need to use the right word when you're speaking. You know, you shouldn't be doing the using the wrong word, or even the first thing. The most of the times, what I have seen in candidates is that first you need to use the right tenses while you're speaking. Okay, especially the present tense and the past tense. That is the that is some of the common errors most of you make while speaking. Okay, so you need to identify the right tenses while you're speaking. When you have to apply the present tense, you have to apply. When you're asking a question with regards to the past, yes, past tense has to be used. So you need to say you need to use the right tenses. So, using the right grammatical grammar is one point where you are being assessed with. Okay, and also the vocabulary, as I said, using the right vocabulary while you're speaking for the purpose of using the vocabulary. You don't have to put really place words, or you don't have to really find words. So if you're sure about that word, you know what is the meaning of that word, and if you feel that this is right in this context, apply it. Otherwise, don't even think about using it. You don't want to make any error, so that you don't get your scores, or you come down on your scores. So please make sure that you use the right word at the right time, and you know okay, I think what are the signposting used in speaking? Is it important to use it? Yes, Anita. Yes, signposting is very much required, but we are only just getting to that criteria. So when we get to that criteria, I definitely would explain what is signposting. Okay, so these are the things which the linguistic criteria is with related to your speaking. Okay, so the signposting and things like that, yes, we would come back to that later on, because that is a different criteria which we would be going through. Okay, so I would be definitely getting back to that. No, don't worry about it. Okay. So the resources again, if you are using a wide variety of grammatical expressions, and if you're flexible, especially see when you're saying that you're using different grammatical forms. that is when you score a 5 or a 6. Okay, band 5 or a 6, as you might see on the left hand side. Okay, so if you just look at the band 6 area, that is for resources of grammar and expression, on the top right hand corner, what it says is that rich and flexible. So you should be the person who they are speaking, or the candidate. You need to use rich and flexible grammatical expressions. Wide range of grammar means that different forms of grammatical expressions, vocabulary used accurately and flexibly. Okay, so maybe at times you have to say the same words at same, at different occasions. Okay, but instead of using the same words, you use similar words. That actually would give the examiner, or the person who is examining, who would be examining you, that an idea that you have a good, you are quite flexible and you have a good command over the vocabulary. And confident use of idiomatic speech. So idiomatic speech is something which we say that idioms, for example, in our small classes, we would have um, seen some idioms which comes to our mind, like, no pain no gain. Yeah, or some sort of idioms like this. Okay, so don't use it until and unless if you are not confident enough in using it. Okay, we don't want to make an error by applying this, but I would definitely say that if you can actually use them, that actually would really, really improve your scores. Okay, um, basically, when you're speaking with your patient, you use them, so that actually would help you to deliver your ideas very easily to the person who is listening to. So the idioms are always used in that way. See, even in a regional language, in Malayalam, we use a lot of idioms while you're speaking, right? So we do it naturally. So that is what you have to do. You don't have to, use it for the purpose of using it. You have to, those things needs to come naturally. Okay. So please make sure that you apply that and use it if you are confident in using it. Otherwise, please don't take the initiative of using it. Okay. Okay. So are we clear about the fourth criteria, that is linguistic, that is resource of grammar and expression? Do you have any questions? Okay, I do see that. Clear, 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 clear. Yes, clear, clear. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, clear. Yes, I hope everybody is quite clear about. Okay, if that's so, then we would move to the other criteria, that is the clinical communication criteria. Okay, so here we have different criterias here, like, okay, we have 5 criterias you need to go through in the clinical communication. Sir, can you be a little bit louder? Yes, definitely, yes. Uh, is it clear? Is it? Am I quite loud right now? I hope. Let me just see if anything needs to be enabled here for. Okay, so good. Okay, that would be good. Okay, so let's talking about the clinical communication criteria. So let's look at the first one, that is relationship building. Okay, this is the first criteria which we need to. So this criteria is further broken down into different forms. For example, the first one is initiating the interaction appropriately. So that includes a greeting, introduction, and nature of interview. For example, uh, to an extent, basically, we all need to adapt, okay, the English speaking country's culture while speaking. So we all do our greetings. Yes, we all do our greetings. In greeting means, it doesn't mean that it is just a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Okay, hi, hello. All these things are also greetings. So you can definitely use all these things while you're doing a greeting. Okay. Mm, and the start of your speaking always needs to be with a greeting. So that is the area where you actually going to, start building your rapport between the the patient or the listener. Okay, so greeting is very essential in all the you know um, let's say, in your speaking. Okay, so let me quickly ask you a quick question. So normally, what happens is that, um, good morning. So when you greet, when you greet a person, okay, you say good morning. What if you come up with a scenario, or the person whom you are speaking to comes says that, I'm sorry, I'm having a very bad morning. Okay, so how are you going to respond to that then? Okay, people would get stuck at times. Okay, yes, am I right? But if it is in a local language, definitely you would respond instantaneously. Yeah. So you would ask, what are the questions you can ask when you get a question like that? For example, as I said, you greet the person, good morning, and he says, I'm sorry that I'm having a very bad morning. What are you going to say next? Could you put your comments in your chat box, please, so that I can then we will discuss about it. Yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that. Yes, yes, Anisha Philip. Oh, really sorry to hear that. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is one. That is really good. Yep. What happened, sir? Okay, what happened, sir? Okay. So let's have that here. Okay. Before we go, that okay. Bhavit, yes. You said about you said usage of sir. Okay. So, and while you're doing your speaking, you never call any person or you never address any person with sir, madam, and things like that when you're doing your speaking. Okay, you always address the person with their surname, or you ask the permission of the person how he or she wants to be addressed. Okay, so never ever address the person with the phrase that is sir, madam, and things like that. Okay. Okay. So Neither James says, "Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. What really uh, bothers you?" Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm very sorry to hear that. Could you tell me the reason? Yeah, that is something. You know, that is how you need to do it. Sorry about it. Okay, so what you need to do is like, okay, you need to ask questions like this. Yes, you form up a question from what he or she has said or asked. Okay, that is a real good thing. Okay, I'm very sorry to hear that. Could you tell me the reason? Yeah, that's a good phrase which you could put. If you don't mind, can you please explain the reason behind it? Yes, that is a very good thing which you could use, because you are actually asking the permission of the person, whether what if he does not wants to what if he does not wants to explain that to you. So you're basically asking him that if it's okay, if you don't mind, please explain the reason behind it. Okay, that's good. What happens? As I said, Faber, you don't use any sort of sir, madam, and things like that. You only address the person while you're speaking in your speaking with the surname or the first name, depends upon how he or she wants to be addressed. So you need to ask the permission of the person how he or she needs to be addressed. That what would you mind telling why? Yes, all these things. Very sorry to you. Would you mind telling me what is bothering you? Good, 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 good. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that, but could you tell me what happened? Okay. So, Shinu, I would want to tell you is that, oh, I am sorry to hear that, but could you tell me what happened? Uh, I always suggest that to avoid the usage of but when you're speaking. Okay, that is not a good way of using it. So try to avoid but. Instead, you could use. Could you please tell me what happened to you or what is bothering you? That would be a good option. So try to avoid the usage of but when you're speaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. Could you please tell me what's bothering you? Yes, if you don't mind, do you mind the sharing it with me? Yeah, fine. Okay. Oh, sorry, if you could share, please tell me what's bothering you. Okay. I do see that good comments are coming up. Yes, yes, that's really good. Okay. Um, Cynthia Rani, yes. Cynthia Rani, as I said, please avoid but from your, sentence. So try to avoid but from your sentence. So that actually is some sort of doubtful thing. So it's always better you avoid but from while you're speaking. Okay. So okay, that's about greeting. Introduction, yes. See, it is some sort. It is a culture in the English speaking countries that whomever you are speaking to, okay, you start uh, you introduce yourself. Okay, that is the first thing you need to do. Okay, after greeting you have to introduce to yourselves to other person. That is a custom or a culture which is being prevailed in most of the English speaking countries, and we have to follow that because we are going into the purpose is that you're all planning to go to an English speaking country, right? So you have to get used to their some good things. So you need to do that. So okay, so we have some questions coming up. Can you tell me instead of but? Um, Cynthia, you what you can do is like you don't have to use but there. All you have in that particular question you can use. Could you please tell me what's bothering you? That's okay. You don't have to use a but there. Okay, maybe you could. That depends upon each instance. For example, um, let's say um, usage of but. Okay, I would like to say that, but I would like to stop you there and all these things. I think that depends upon each um, situation. So what I'm saying is that when you're doing your casual talks, definitely you can use but what I'm saying is that when you're doing your professional speaking, it's not that you can't use but I would suggest it would be rather good if you could avoid but instead using um, That depends upon each situation. So I can't say a similar word towards but. Okay, it always depends upon each situation. Okay, so before introducing ourselves, as I have a question here. So before introducing ourselves as a nurse, can we start a role play? What I would say is, no, Tina, what you have to do is like the first things first. So basically, when you start your role play, your greeting should be there, okay? Then you need to introduce yourself, okay? At least your name should be there and your designation on what you are going to do there. And what is your purpose of yourself in front of that particular person? So see, that is a normal in the culture, I would say, within the English-speaking countries. So if you see anybody speaking to anyone in an English-speaking country, they go and say, "Good morning, hi, my name is so and so." That is how a stranger introduces to other person, right? So it is very necessary that you have to introduce yourself first. That needs to be there. Okay. So introduction needs to be done. That is very important. What seems to be the problem? Vishnupriya, yes, that is a good way of placing. What seems to be the problem? That is a casual way of applying that sentence. I would say a bit more change could be applied. Um, would you mind explaining me about the problems, please? So that would be a bit more polite. Okay. We are not ordering him to give his problems. We are requesting, or we are asking if he is okay to, discuss his problem with us. So that's the way you need to apply politeness. Sorry, if you can share, please tell me what's happened, sir. Again, sir, please avoid sir. Okay. Okay. If it is an emergency department, or something emergency, is that very important to tell our name? I would always say that yes, it is important to tell our name. Okay, not to introduce you very much. We just take a quick, a few seconds. That's all. Okay, because that is what they are. So from the beginning, we need to start building. We need to start relationship building. So that is very important that we introduce ourselves in the beginning itself, even if it's an emergency case, Anita. Okay, I think initially, yes, I did had a confusion with regards to that initially, but I would say it is very important that we need to, we are in a scenario of an English-speaking environment, right? So we need to follow that. We need to adapt to their culture. Okay, so for which we need to introduce ourselves in the beginning itself, whether it's an emergency situation or not. It doesn't matter. Okay. Danya has a question, sir. If the role play happens in an emergency, still we need to introduce. Yes, we need to introduce Danya, as I just mentioned earlier. Okay, okay, okay. We have also. How can we start an emergency situation? See, emergency situation. Even if it's an emergency situation, what we can do is like we can first say that I am so and so, I am the nurse, and I understand you have an emergency situation here. So I will be taking care of you, and I am the nurse here. So you place that emergency situation in your speaking, okay, in your words, but uh, you are giving an importance to the emergency situation, but however, you're also introducing yourself, okay. So it is very mandatory that in English speaking countries, they need to know whom they are interacting with. That is their right to know. So we need to explain, or we need to introduce ourselves. Okay. Okay, Anita, I think is that clear? The words which I said, or the sentence which I just said. Okay, sir. Okay, 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 fine. So, okay, so We will just look at the other options for here as such, demonstrating an attentive and respectful attitude. Okay, so basically, you also need to demonstrate attentiveness. Okay, how do you demonstrate attentiveness? By maybe showing some sort of um, sounds, basically. When you're listening to a person, okay, when the patient is talking to you, or when the when a person is talking to you, you can use okay. Okay, I really understand that. Okay, by just putting in small words here and there, so that you're showing that you are attending to his conversation, rather than having a complete silence when he is speaking, or he or she is speaking. So always good to give some sort of uh, you know acknowledgement when you're listening to a person, by and a respectful attitude. Okay, or even you can express your emotions as well. So when a person is saying something which is very bad, okay, you need to give your expressions as well. For example, he says that the patient said, I met with an accident yesterday. So you can definitely put in your words straight away that I'm really sorry to hear that. Or even you can ask, pop up a quick question. Was it really serious, and what had happened? What happened later on? So you could pop up a question like that. So you show that you're attending to his question, or you are really listening to a question, and you're showing some respectfulness to your through your attitude. Okay, so this is how you could get the rapport of the person whom you're speaking to. Okay, I have Tina Stephen asking a question. If the patient replied that I have not a good morning, so how we will start the role play with our self introduction? Yes, you ask the question with that. I'm not having a good morning. So, could you tell me what is really bothering you? You can really speak to me. So, you're not stopping that there. You can really say that. You continue. Could you please tell me, explain me about it? My name is so and so. I'm the nurse here. So, then you can. So, you introduce after that question itself. So, you're just placing one question, then you're introducing. So, he will feel free that he or she is explaining things to the right person, okay? Or just reassuring the person that maybe you can help him or her, okay? Okay, I have Preeta with a question. If we forget to ask name in warm up, between the warm-up question, see, uh, you don't have to. It is not really necessary that you have to ask the name of the patient. Okay, it is not necessary. You can ask the name of the person during your conversation as well, or you can even put in your perspective name. For example, you can start with calling yourself, or you can create your own name for the patient, and you can clarify, am I speaking to Mr. So and so? Yes. If he says a yes, you continue with that. If he says a no, okay, may I have your name, please? Simple. So you can go along with the speaking. Okay. Yeah, and adopting a non-judgmental approach. Yes, while you're speaking, when you're doing your speaking, never ever, apply a judgmental approach. Okay, that is when you say that judgmental approach is that don't say that he is doing this. For example, um, mm, I think that you are having a smoking habit. Okay, that is a judgmental approach. Okay, so you are stating that the person is having a smoking habit. Okay, so don't use those type of words or sentences, or don't use judgmental approaches. Always be non-judgmental. Okay, so please be aware about those things. Okay, then showing empathy for feelings and emotional states. Yes, you need to really express the empathy fact when you are speaking. Okay, so that actually helps in relationship building. For example, you're saying when a person says that, okay, in an English speaking environment, they are more attached to the humans, more attached to humans, more attached to the animals or the pet animals than humans, I would say. For example, they would say, um, see the same scenario. Let's say the patient said that he's not feeling good. So you ask the question that could you tell me why is that you're not feeling? So what if the patient comes up with the answer stating that I have lost my pet dog today. So normally when we hear that, we don't have that feeling at all, right? So we just consider it as a normal thing. Or the pet, we would say that okay. So that is a normal response. Normally candidates do. So actually, I think you need to change that perspective. So any sort of, the patient is actually when he or she, the person who is speaking to you, is actually demonstrating, he is some here having some sort of emotion, okay, uh, because he or she has lost his or her pet. So we also need to, actually empathize with that. You can always say that even if it's a dog, you can his pet or whatever, you can say that I'm sorry for your loss. You can, and you need to do that, and you need to empathize on each factor of sadness or emotion when the patient is going through. So please make sure that you do that while you're speaking. When you hear that, this is how you build a rapport between the patient and yourself. This will help the patient to open up to you. Okay, so I hope the relationship building is quite clear to you. Do you have any questions? Okay, I do see that. No, 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 no. Okay, no questions so far. Okay, neither games, no. Okay, okay. Okay, so I see that most of you don't have any questions, but I'm just waiting. Okay, okay, fine. So there are not much questions. Okay, so let's move on to the second criteria in the clinical communication. So that is understanding and incorporating the patient's perspective. So eliciting and exploring the patient's ideas, concerns, expectations. Yes, we need to elicit the and explore the patient's ideas. For example, the patients might come up with short things. You need to ask him to explain more about it. If you're not clear about, that actually shows an interest, okay, or that actually shows that you want to understand more about the situation. For example, let's say that the patient says that he has a pain on his knee, okay, so that could be one of the scenario, and you say that um, I'm okay. The next question you can ask is, could you tell me more about your pain, please? Or if the patient says that I have a pain, or you ask him what is the reason you are here today. So he says the patient says that he is suffering from pain. So you ask a question. Could you elaborate on where exactly the pain is, and could you tell me about more about it? So this would actually, put the patient to explain more. Okay, and he would explain more. So you have a better understanding about the about his, okay, to understand about his situation, the patient's situation. So the basic idea is that we need to understand the patient's uh, you know um, we need to understand the patient, right? Okay, so basically we need to ask questions like these. We need to make him open up. Okay, we need to explore the patient's ideas. Or maybe when you say that a patient is being asked to do some sort of exercise. Okay, we are advising him to do some sort of exercise. So or cardiac exercise or cardiotherapy or cardiac exercises. So you could put in a question towards the patient that what do you know about cardio exercises. So we can get an understanding about what the patient knows. Then we have to explain to him only what he requires. So we don't have to explain what the patient already knows. So that you know makes our explanation easier as well. So this is what understanding the patient and also incorporating the patient's perspective. So we are also asking about what is his view, or maybe we are going to tell him that you need to follow some sort of diet. Okay, for an example. So what do you think about it? So we ask the patient a question: what do you think about following this particular diet? So the patient would say that if it's good for him or if it's bad for him. Okay, he will give his perspective. So then we can give the right options to the patient. So it is quite clear for us to deal with the patient. Okay, and also picking up clues from the patient speaking. So the patient would speak that would say that it is not a good idea that I would follow dietary requirements because I'm having some sort of because I'm having a busy schedule or a busy job. Okay, so you are understanding that it would be quite difficult for him to follow this diet. So you're picking up clues from the patient. So you think while when the patient is speaking to you as well. You need to pick up clues, and also relating explanation to the elicited ideas. For example, the patient would you would ask patient that what are the things which he knows about that. So if he says that something that okay, he knows this, okay, use when you start explaining about it. Okay, as you have explained me that you know about this about this thing. That is really good. That is one of the factor which is there, but there are other factors also involved in this. So you actually add the idea of the patient or the patient to your conversation. Okay, this is what you're going to do. So in that way you are demonstrating that you understood what he or she said, and you are incorporating the patient's perspective as well. So are you clear with this particular criteria? Do you have any further questions towards this? Okay, I do see that there are not much questions, not much questions, no much questions, no much questions. Clear, 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 clear. Fine, sir. Okay. Any reluctant patients or attenders? Okay. Okay, Liji, I didn't really capture the idea of your question, that any reluctant patient or attender, sir? Okay, you mean to say how to deal with reluctant patients? Yes, patient. Okay, so how to deal with reluctant patients is that first you need to listen to him. Okay, you need to make him understand that what are his concerns. Okay, so maybe you could illustrate his concerns or paraphrase what he or she said and repeating the concern he or she has. So making him understand that you have understood his concern. Okay, then give him solutions. I think most of the times a reluctant person is always having a thing that he can't do that. He can giving him an options. Okay, first of all, getting to say an yes from him. To do that, the best thing is to paraphrase what he or she said and repeating that to him and to get a yes first. Then he would be ready to yours to listen to you. Okay, so we will come up with those scenarios. I think we will use them. We will use. I'll be taking a sample. I'll be using a sample speaking role play card here. So we would discuss about that when we do that. Okay, is that okay, Liji? Okay. Okay, so going on to the third one, that is providing structure. Okay, sequencing the interview purposefully and logically. Yes, whenever you start your conversation after your introduction, your greeting, introduction, and things like that, and you first say about you identify the problem, or you illustrate to the patient that this is what you are here for. Then you provide a structure. Okay, a structure to the patient, that what are you going to discuss here today, and what is the reason that you are here today. Okay, and what are you going to tell the patient about. So all these things needs to be there. So you need to have some sort of sequence. For example, people who have joined the this particular webinar today would have noticed that when I started my, module or the session today, I told you all that what are we going to cover today? Yes, basically like, what I be doing first, what I be doing second, and things like that. Okay, so you get an idea about what am I going to do today. So this is what you are going to explain to a patient as well. So this actually illustrates the a structure of or you will be quite organized. Okay, you will form an organization. You will form an organized way. You will be in an organized way in your speaking. So the patient would expect what is going to come next. Okay, and when you're doing this organization, okay, here is what, Anita, you would the question which you have placed in the signposting, okay, comes into play. Maybe when you're using organization, when you're speaking, okay, um, with one by one, you're posting something like, okay, you say about something and you are going to move on to the next thing. That is where you do signposting. Okay, you just, what is signposting is that, okay, you said that we are going to, okay, let's take today's example to be like what I did today. Okay, I started with the linguistic criteria. Then when I finished that, I said that we are going to start with clinical communication criteria. So that is a signposting which I'm just which I said or did, so that you are ready and you are going to expect this is what's going to happen. Okay, this is how you do, and you are showing an organized way of speaking then. Is that clear? Anita, I hope you got the answer what I said right now. Okay, okay, okay. So this is how you do. Before you start your speaking, once you identify what you are going to do to the patient, so you need to describe to him what are your plans for him today. Okay, for example, if you are going to say do a wound dressing, okay, for a patient, you need to tell him that what are the steps and procedures you're going to do. Okay. You need to maybe you could say that first you would be doing you'll be cleansing the wound area. You would be applying the ointment or the medication. Then you'll be wrapping up so and so. So you could say some sort of explanation. I'm just giving an example. That's all. Or maybe you're going to tell him about some dietary requirements which you're going to say, or so you're going to do it like this. You're going to say that, okay, we will be discussing about the dietary things and the medications and things like that. So you need to formulate by yourself a structure, okay, and tell them that these are the things which you need to do. Okay, I have a question here. In the role play, how to reassure the patient? Um, Preeta, that's totally that's a good question. That how do we reassure? So everybody, most of the candidates, they think that when you say reassurance, the first thing which comes to our mind is that we tell the patient that, okay, the most common words which we use is that I understand your concern. Okay, I understand that, or please do not worry, you are at the right place. These are the common things which you normally come across, or most of the candidates use. So I think, how different can you use? That is up to you. You need to think yourself, what all words or sentences can you imply to do to give a reassurance to a patient? See, the reassurance does not end in just words like just stating, I understand your concern. No. So you have to paraphrase it and say that, and to make the patient understand that you have understood that. That is the best reassurance way. Okay? Rather than saying, using the word, I understand your concern, you can paraphrase the thing and say that you understood what he or she, what his or her concerns are. Okay, that is the best way of reassuring the person, rather than using "I understand your concern." Okay, think differently. That is what. Okay. Okay, so we were talking about providing the structure. So technically, when using technical explanation, when you're doing technical explanation, you need to basically use very simple languages. Okay, technical is the ones which needs to be explained very carefully. Okay, when you have to do some technical explanation, for example, you are asked to describe about, or you're asked to tell the patient about the procedure of something. Okay, maybe um, mm, yeah, some sort of procedure. You are asked to do some sort of explanation of some procedure. So what you need to do is that you need to break it down. Okay, so you need to explain by an organized way. So you should not explain something and jump again, then jump back to the first thing. So when you're explaining, you need to do it in a chronological order. So that is what is all about, providing a structure when you are speaking. So always make sure that you have a structure when you're speaking. So these points, if you could just note down, and when you, in the initial stages, when you do your speaking, try to follow all these things. Take your time, plan yourself, do these things. Maybe you could write down your speaking, okay, your script. You could first try writing down your script and see if all these elements are being placed here on the speaking. Then try practicing that. Okay, that will be a good start for you when you start practicing your speaking. Okay, so I think that providing structure is clear to you all. Is that okay? Do you have any questions? Okay, let me see if you have any questions. No questions, no questions, no questions. Clear, 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 clear. Okay. So let's move on to information gathering then. Okay. So that is the fourth criteria in the clinical communication. So information gathering. So first of all, what do you need to do to when you are gathering information? You need to have active listening. You have active listening techniques. I've just mentioned to you earlier that in the first, okay, that when you need to first listen to the patient. When you're listening, you need to use listening techniques. Okay, what are the techniques in an active listening? When you're listening, you need to provide some sort of responses to the interpreter, basically the person who is speaking to you. Maybe like not actions, okay, because out here you are assessed with your voice. Okay, there is no video recording has been done when you're doing your mock session, or when you're doing on your test day. It is just the audio has been recorded. So we need to provide a maximum audio responses when you are doing your test. Okay. Okay. Paraphrasing. Okay. Vigimon had a question about can you give an example for paraphrasing? So let me get back to I'm sorry, everyone. So I think Vigimon had a question. Can you give me an example for paraphrasing? So paraphrasing is what is that okay? The patient tells you something. He says that he is having some sort of um, problem on his knee, and he is having a pain during night, and he's giving a lot of explanation, all these things. Okay, so paraphrasing means you are putting what the patient has said or the person has said in your own words, so that you can confirm whatever you have understood is right from the person's words. Is that clear, Vijimon? So that is what that has to be done by in your own words. Paraphrasing is that doing you're repeating the same thing, or you're repeating the words or sentences, or you're repeating the idea or the information which has been given to you, or been which has been told to you by the patient in your own words. So that is called paraphrasing. Is that clear, Vijimon? Okay. Okay, so we were in information gathering. Okay, listening techniques. Yes, when you are listening to the patient, or when you're listening to a person who is speaking, all you have to do is like, you need to acknowledge what he or she is saying. Maybe like saying, okay, okay, I understand that. So at least giving some sort of, notations while you're listening, but not with minimal interruption. You also have to be very sure that you do not interrupt the person while he or she is speaking. So your interruption should be very, very um, it should be very less. Okay, so this needs to be very you need to focus on that. No interruption should be there. So give it a time for the patient to finish with his speaking. Okay, you can ask questions. I'm not saying that. You should be the interruption should be minimal. Okay, and it should be with politeness. Okay, so in case, okay, I have a question for Emlyn. Sir, in case if the patient states all the problems at a time, how can we move on with the conversation? Yes, see, if the patient states all the problems in one state, that is where you bring in the organization structure. Okay, so you paraphrase his problem. Okay, you put in your problem. These are the problems that you have understood from his speaking. Then you organize. Okay, you tell the patient that okay, we will start with this first, second this one, third one, blah blah. Like that. So you can showcase a structure this way. I hope, Emlyn, is that clear to you? Okay. Okay, so we were you're looking at the information gathering using initial opening questions. Okay, when you know information gathering, when you're doing your information gathering, in the beginning of your conversation, always try to ask open questions. So, what is an open question? Okay, open question is something, a question when you ask which is not answered as yes or no questions. Okay, for example, could you explain or could you tell me about the pain? So that is not a answer the patient could give in one word. Yes, it is not a yes or no question. He has to give as an explanation, right? So in the beginning, it's always good that you always have to use open-ended questions. Okay, but when you come towards the end of the conversation, or when you come towards the end of your speaking, you need to add with closed end questions, because you have to wrap up the conversation, right? So it is very important that you use closed end questions, that yes or no questions. So you don't allow the patient to expand or take more of your time. Okay. So in the beginning, you ask open-ended questions. Towards moving towards the end, you should be having closed-end questions, or basically yes or no questions. Okay. And also not using compound questions. See, you ask a lot of questions while you're speaking, but make sure that you don't ask questions. What is a compound question? Compound question means you ask a question wherein the patient has to answer two or three things. No. Okay. All you ask is a very simple question. You don't ask compound questions where you combine two, three questions together and ask a compound question. Compound question is a question when you combine two, three questions. That is what a compound question is. So please make sure that you don't, uh, you know, apply compound questions. Why you don't apply compound questions is because the patient would get, or the listener or the person whom you're speaking to, get confused with that question. He might even forget what has been asked. Okay, so please apply, simple questions. Okay, which is quite explanatory, and clarifying statements which are vague or need amplifications. Yes. So if you are not clear about something when the patient is talking, and you feel that you don't have the right information, okay, you think that there is some sort of something is missing there when you're doing your explanation. So for you to do the explanation, then you ask clarifying statements. Okay, you ask clarifying statements. For example, the patient says that he uses some sort of mm, okay, let's say soap. Okay, and the patient has come. Let's take a quick example. The patient has come over with some sort of skin disease. Okay, and the patient says that you ask the patient that what do you do to overcome the skin disease? Okay, did you make any further treatments by yourself? So the patient says that I have applied soap several times to get rid of the disease or the skin disease. So you need to know what type of, that soap is good for, maybe. I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm saying that let's imagine the soap is good for your the for this particular disease, or you apply soap frequently, or it is good for this particular disease. Let's imagine that. Okay, but from you don't know that, you need further clarification on that. You need to know whether this patient is applying the soap, too frequently. When you apply frequently, it can damage your skin, right? And it can cause all these things. You're not sure about that because this is not being explained by the patient, correct? Or you can even ask, the patient did not even explain about whether he is using what type of soap. Is it a mild soap or is it a hard stuff and soap? Okay, so all these things matters in this. So these weren't explained. So for your clarification, you may ask this: now, are you using what? Could you explain me about what type of soap you're using? All these things would help to clarify the statements and to get a clear idea about the patient's situation so that you can give a good explanation. So I think you are clear about this information gathering. So when you're, don't ever judge the patient. Okay, don't assume that this is what happens. So you always ask a question, get it clarified. Okay, we have a question here, sir. As part of information gathering, is it necessary that we need to ask some information which has already been stated in the card? It is good that you asked some questions to the person. Yes, yes. Until and unless the patient hasn't verbalized to you about the situation, it is. See, in the role play card, the information which is provided is it is just for you to understand this is a situation so you can plan yourself, but we need to make it come from the patient as well. Okay, you could try your part even if the patient is not opening up. It's okay, but you can ask questions which may lead to those answers. Okay, if the patient is not opening up and giving you what you really want, okay, you can create questions and ask him or her, which would lead him or her to that particular answers, okay, or to that particular statements. Is that clear, Emily? Okay, and there is also a good thing that when you're gathering information, you also need to, because when at times the patients give a lot of information. Okay, so it's quite difficult for us to remember. So what you can do is like to get back or to get those informations very clearly, you can summarize the information after the patient speaks. For example, he says that he has skin rashes, he has pain, he has headache, he has high earring problem and ear loss and all these things. So we are humans, we intend to lose our concentration, we miss certain things, right? So it is always good that when there are a lot of information being given to you, it is always good you summarize, you tell the patient that mm, to make myself clear or to check if my understanding is clear, may I repeat the information which you have provided to me? And you give all this information. You tell that, okay, as you said, you have a problem with your knee, you have a pain, you have a problem with your hearing, and all these things. So if you miss something, the patient would notify you. Okay, so this is how you summarize things, and you make yourself understand, or the patient also understands that he or she, you got the informations correctly. Okay, so these are the things which you can do while gathering information. So, and these are the things which you need to really do when you're gathering information. Okay, so do you have any further questions towards this? No, 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 no. Okay, no. Okay, okay, that's good. That's really good. Okay, so let's come to the last one, the last criteria, that is information giving. Okay, this is something which you need to be very careful when you're doing. Okay, when you give informations, you need to be very careful. So let's look at one by one. Establishing initially what the patient already knows. Okay, so before you pass on the information, it is very necessary that you have an idea about what the patient knows about this. That's why we have a question always framed. What do you know about this? Or what do you think about this? Okay, do you know anything about this particular procedure? So you get what he or she knows about this. So, your explanation, you can decide whether you need to be elaborate or you need to be precise when you're giving the information. So if the patient knows about it, you don't have to elaborate the things, right? You can be very precise, so you can save a time on that, and you can concentrate things which is which is very necessary, where the patient is lacking something or the patient is lacking some sort of other information. You can give that. Okay, so it depends upon what the patient knows. So you need to make sure that what the patient knows, so then you provide the information. So you understand what the patient knows about that particular information which you're going to give, then you respond it like that. Okay. And pausing periodically when giving information using the response to guide the next steps. Basically, yes. See, when you're speaking, okay, when you're giving information, you give information, very gently, and also use pauses, because it is quite difficult, because when you're giving information, you're going to give a lot of information, and the patient is definitely not going to remember all this information, right? And he will not even understand what you're saying if there is a lot of information needs to be passed on to. Okay, so it is always good that you pause at times and make sure that the patient or the person has understood what you have just you know told him. Okay, whether he has a clear understanding, you go after that. So if you see that, okay, he does not understand, he hasn't understood that, repeat that. Okay, or maybe you could say that you have limited time as well, so you can always say that you can also you could provide him with a leaflet to look through all this information. Okay, so at times you can even ask the patient to just to summarize what you and the patient has discussed about discussed today. Okay, or if you can ask him to repeat what he has understood, from you about this condition or whatever it is. Okay, so that makes that the information given is right, and he has captured those information. Okay, posting periodically and making sure that you have um, you know whatever you have said is clear to the person. Okay, encouraging the person to contribute reactions, feelings, and all. Okay, you can even ask. Okay, after giving these options, after giving this advices, that how do you feel about this? You can ask the questions. How do you feel about this option, or how do you feel about this suggestion? Okay, so you get the information. So if he feels that is not right, you can give options. So you don't have to explain what you were giving initially. You give the options and you explain with that. Okay, like what if you give all this information and he says that this is not adequate to me? Okay, so you're losing time out there, right? You're simply wasting your time there. So while you're speaking or while you're giving this option, check with the patient that if this is adequate to him. Okay, if he is able to follow this regime, or if he's able to follow this or that. Okay, so I do have a question popped up here by Evelyn. Obviously the patient should realize that we are empathetic, but whether the patient should know that we are sympathetic. um, no, Evelyn, you only have to display the empathy part, not sympathy. Okay, you don't have to display your sympathy here. You only have to show empathy. Okay, and so I hope that was clear. And Sheetal has have a question. So we had to conclude after the end of the cue card what we had discussed. Um, yes, you. It is not very necessary because, for example, you have a very good. You can just even ask a quick question. Um, have you understood what we have discussed today? So it is just a open-ended question. So you can just get an answer yes or no. Because if you have more time, you can even ask Sheetal that you can ask the patient that could you tell me what we have discussed? Could you just quickly summarize what you have understood? So he or she or you can summarize. Okay, you can summarize if it's a very long list. Okay, and you can also state that okay, I would also provide you with a leaflet so that you don't miss anything at all. So those things, it depends upon whether depending upon the time and your time you take. Okay, it's good if you could conclude with a summary which what you have discussed. Okay, and Anita Jacob has another question whether we can say, are you getting my point in case of the response? Uh, yes, you can state that word, are you getting my point? But try to be not too repetitive. For example, each time when you say, are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? Which would sound awkward, okay? So use similar words. Are you able to understand me? Do you have any questions? You can use at several equations. So all these words, if you could write it down somewhere, which can be handy when you're speaking before you go for speaking test. If you could just quickly brush up all those things, that would be really really good. Okay. Then Emily has another question. There are kinds of people who doesn't want others to be sympathetic, right? Yes, most of them, they would wish that they don't want sympathy. So it's good that you avoid, sympathy. Only empathize with them. Okay, you only join you only show the emotion that you also have some sort of, you empathize with them, not sympathize with them. Okay. Okay. Another thing is that okay. Encouraging patient to contribute reactions and feelings. Check whether the patient has understood information. Yes, as we discussed about whether the patient has understood the information. Uh, and also discover whether the patient needs more information or not. Okay, that is up to you. And if you are running out of time and you ask a last question that to the patient that if he requires further more information, okay, you don't have time to explain, you have to wrap up. All you have can do is like you can just point him to where he could get the information. That is done. Yeah, quickly you can wrap up your conversation. Okay, I hope you're clear with the information giving. Do you have any questions with regards to this? Please pop up your questions, please. Anybody having any questions? Okay. Okay. So all the indicators has to be followed. Sheetal, yes. See, all the indicators. This is how OET assess assess your speaking. For example, they look at when your recording is being played and the examiner listens to you. They will look at all these criterias. If you have met all these criterias, you would be graded. So that is how you've been graded. So you need to focus on all these things while you're speaking. Okay, it is very mandatory that you do it. So these scores, for example, the clinical communications criteria is from 0 to 3. Okay, so here we have 5 basically criterias. Whereas if you look at the linguistic or criteria, that the score banding is from 0 to 6, but you have only 4 out there. Okay, so you have to do your math and find where you can score more. First of all, you find your strength and work towards it. That is what you can do. Okay, so I see that we don't have much questions coming up, so let's quickly then move on to. Okay, due to some technical, I was not able to attend yesterday's class. How could I attend yesterday's class? Um, But what you can do is like, I think it's there in, it's not the video that is there. You can have my voice recordings, which is there in the Facebook. You go log into IRS Group and you can get the voice recording for the class which I've done yesterday. So I think that would really, really help you with it. Okay. So, okay. So let's quickly move on. You're welcome. Got it. Okay, so let's quickly move on to a role play sample, which I would like to show you. Okay, so okay, just checking out. Okay, I do have a role play card here for you. So this is, you know, mm, role play card for the nurses. I hope most of you who are attending the webinar might be from the medical profession, sorry, the nursing profession. So I thought that would be more adequate, but it's all the same. It's just that the scenarios just change. Okay, for different professions. Okay, so let's quickly see how you could we just quickly discuss about what can be done, how to do speaking in this particular scenario, okay, or role play card. Okay, so let's quickly read the role play card. Okay, the setting is a general practice. Okay, and uh, the nurse. You are a nurse. Yes, you would be acting as a nurse. You are a practice nurse and have been asked you to advise a patient who has had an abnormal blood test result. So, the patient is having abnormal blood test result, and you have to advise something to the patient. Yes, that is what being advised. That is what the scenario is all about. Okay, so the situation is being mentioned here in the point out there, the nurse. That is what the situation is. Okay, so the task is what. Do you see something called task, and there are some bullet points? Okay, this is what you have to perform when you are speaking. Okay, these are the tasks. Okay, so let's look at the task one by one. The first one is explain the purpose of today's discussion. Increase dietary iron. Okay, so today's purpose. Okay, today you are here to discuss with the patient that okay, there is a problem with your there is an abnormality in your blood test, and it states that the patient requires an increase in dietary iron. Okay, that is the purpose of this meeting or discussion with the patient. Okay, okay. So what I want what I want you to do is that I want you to quickly formulate how can you start this conversation, okay, with as we have discussed about the greeting, the introduction, and things like that. And how do you initiate your speaking? So could you just have a quick thinking of that? And maybe if you could just put in that in the comment box, that would really, really help. So we could discuss one by one. Okay, so I do see some comments coming up. Good morning, my name is GB Jaco. I'm one of the registered on duty. Okay, good. Yep, yep. So apart from greetings, I'm registered assigned for you to take care of you. Okay, I will be taking care of you today. Okay, so let me just get to this straight away. Okay, so normally when you start with your conversation, you do your greeting, depending upon whether it's good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. Okay, you do your greeting. Good morning. My name is so and so. I am one of the registered nurse working in this, um, you know, as a general practice, or you can say that I'm one of the registered nurse who is assigned to take care of you today. And I have, as per the doctor, as per the results or the doctor, whatever it is. Okay, you frame yourself how you want to be. Okay, you need to get to the discussion point. Okay, you need to tell what is the reason that you are here today or the patient is here today. Okay, so that is what you need to do. For example, like this. Good morning, my name is Balu. I am one of the registered nurse, and today I'm here to discuss to you with regards to your blood test results. As I see that the blood test seems to be a bit abnormal. Okay, and you can start. So we need to discuss, and you require to increase your dietary iron. So this is some sort of, some one type of way of explaining or starting a conversation. You can even ask, the name of the patient. You can even, start with, "Good morning. Are you Mr.?" You can start like this. "Good morning. Am I speaking to Mr. So and so?" Yeah, you put the name by yourself. Okay, and then you come into this. My name is so and so. I am the registered nurse here. And you come to the today. I'm here to discuss with you about your blood results, which had shown abnormalities, and it shows that you require an increased dietary iron. Okay, so you tell this. After that, you prompt a question to the patient. Are you aware about the situation? So he or she would say yes or no, or yes or no. Okay, all these things. Okay, let me look at your. Okay, let me look at the different options here. Just give me a minute. Okay, okay. I'm a registered nurse assigned for you to take care of you. Okay. Sheetal, what you need to do is that I'm a registered nurse assigned to you, okay, to take care of you. So you don't, to take care. You don't have to use you again, okay? It is quite understood. Okay. I'm a registered nurse assigned to you to take care of you is not required. Okay. I'll be taking care of you today. Fine, fine, Preetha. And what we have here is good morning. I am the Niraju working in this department. I'll be taking care of you today. Okay, okay, okay. I am the Niraju. I'm working as a registered nurse here. Hi, good morning. My name is BG Raju. I am the nurse on duty. How can I help you? See, you are here to help him, right? So it is not that you ask the patient. So because out here, the purpose itself states that you are here to explain or discuss about the the problem of his abnormal blood results. So BG, what you have to do is like that question wouldn't be an appropriate question at this particular scenario. How can I help you? That you need to change that. You need to tell him that why he is here or what is the purpose he is here. Okay. So, or maybe you can ask about the whether he knows about his blood results. So you pop up a question and you continue with it, okay? So good morning, I'm Marin, one of the registered nurses. I'll be taking care of you today. Uh, okay. Good morning, I'm Marin. Good morning, I'm Shiny nurse on duty. May I know your name? Okay, Mister. Today we are going to discuss about increased dietary iron. See, Shiny, what I want to see is that you need to be very clear about why that is required. Okay, so you need to state that the blood due to the why he requires increase in dietary iron. Okay, so you need to explain him, but otherwise there would be a quick question that why should I do that from the patient side? Yes, so it's always good that you demonstrate the reason why he requires to increase the dietary iron. Okay, because of the abnormalities or the iron deficiency in the blood test. The blood test has reveals that there is some sort of iron deficiency. Okay, so you need to do that. Hi, good morning. I'm Siniza. I'll be taking care of you today. Good morning. I am Merlin Maniwa, working as a registered nurse here. How you feel today? Um, yeah, it is okay that you can start with how you're feeling today, how you feel today, then but you get back to the course of action, what you have to do. Okay, good that you start with that. You try to build a rapport, but it's better that after you ask that question, you get straight away to the fact of discussing what is he here for to discuss with. Okay, I'm right. You have been sent by the doctor. Am I right? You have been sent by the doctor to discuss regarding your blood report and abnormalities. Um, Atina, what I would really suggest in this case is that, after the introduction and things like that, what you can say is that, uh, am I right? You have been sent. So you are actually placing a question with a different way. That actually does not really um, sound that good. That am I right? You have been sent by the doctor to discuss regarding your blood report and abnormalities. It's actually never negative fact, right? So it's always good that if you could straight away put that. If I'm right that you have been sent by the, if I'm right, am I right is not good. If I'm right, you've been sent by the doctor in order to discuss regarding your blood report and to increase and about your the deficiency in your and to increase your dietary iron. Okay, so you can put it like that. So it's always better that you avoid any sort of negative uh, thoughts or negative sentences into your speaking. Okay. Okay. How can I help you today? See, Preeta, what I've said is like in this case, you don't have to. You're basically asking a question when you don't have any further information. But here you have an information about, you are going to advise about to a patient about his abnormal blood test and what he has to do to increase his dietary. So you don't have to place a question, how can I help you today? Because the patient might not be knowing about what he has to do. Okay, so it's always better that we start or we initiate the conversation. So that is how we initiate the conversation with the patient. Okay. Good morning. I am registered nurse and I'm working in this department. How can I help you? Today we will discuss about the blood results and the measures to be taken. That is a good way of doing, Abhijit. Yes. If you don't mind, I will explain about. Okay. Preeta, I think you can form it in a different way. Maybe today we are here to. I'm here to discuss about the blood results and the measures to be taken to increase your dietary iron. So that would be a good option. Okay. Good morning. I'm Shaji. Mr. Nurse working here. I'm assigned to take care of you. Okay. Before that, can I address you? Okay, let me tell you that I've gone through your report. It seems that your HB level is a little bit on the lower side. Okay, fine, good, 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 good. Go on, that's fine. If you don't mind, could you please explain the dietary pattern? See, you don't have to ask a question with regards to that. So you're going to just tell that you're going to explain about the dietary iron, okay, which he needs to include in his diet, okay. So you can ask about what do you know about the are you following any dietary pattern, or are you aware about do you know anything about the dietary iron pattern? So you ask a question, so we grab the information about what the patient knows, then we explain the situation to the patient. Okay, so that's a good way. Good morning, I am Danya Raju. I am one of the registered owners in this department. I am a bit abnormal. Okay, so I have just gone through all these things. Yes, you're doing good. Most of you have been on the right track, I think, with regards to the um, the introduction. Yes, so that is really good. So it is up to you. Rather than following the same type of introduction for everything, try to change or try to formulate your own style of introduction, so that you have uniqueness in your speaking. Okay, so let's get to the speaking here. So you first explained. We discussed about the first task. Explain the purpose of today's discussion. Okay, you tell the patient that yes, uh, there is some sort of abnormalities in the blood test results, and you can always state that the doctor has advised that you needs to your dietary iron needs to be increased after looking at the blood test results. Okay, so then you ask a question that to the patient that are you aware about or do you know anything about the dietary iron requirements? So he or she, if she or she says there's no, then it's good. Then you can start explaining. Okay, um, you can ask questions that have you been under any sort of diet? Okay, so all these questions would help you what to tell. So you gather the information. Okay, you gather the information first on this case, You take all the informations, like, if he has gone through any sort of diet, if he has been on any dietary regimens earlier, or is it for his first time? Because the first time it's fine. So um, he might say that, okay, in this situation he can come up with stating that, yes, you ask this question about, do you know how to increase the iron in your diet, and he says that, yes, by taking tablets. Okay, so he says that by taking tablets, I think I can increase the dietary, the iron in his diet. Okay, so, but the problem is here, in the third task, it needs to state that in a long term, it is not a tablets are not a long term solution, right? So you need to explain it about it. So you cannot state that it is bad. Okay, okay. What you can say that, yes, your knowledge about the iron deficiency can be increased by taking tablets. Um, However, it is not a long-term solution. Okay, uh, if you take the tablets for a long time, it can cause constipation, dark and stool, etc. All these things. So you can tell that. Okay, before you even start that, you can even ask, after you ask all these questions. Okay, after you start your conversation, you can demonstrate the structure of your speaking, because when you go through your um, task, okay, you need to have an idea about what are the questions which are going to ask the patient, and then what are the how are you going to structure your speaking. Okay, you need to have that structure in your mind. You have that time of jotting down the notes. You actually has 3 minutes to go through your uh, role play card. Okay, during that 3 minutes, you read through it very thoroughly and plan yourself the questions, and also the um, structure which you are going to do. Okay, you plan your structure, you have an idea about that, tell that what are you going to do with regards to this. In this case, okay, you're going to talk about the remedies, or these solutions, or the options to improve his uh, diet, iron in his diet. Then, if there is any disadvantages and advantages towards it, and emphasize on diet things. So you tell them that, okay, we would be discussing these today. Okay, and then with the signpost, he's going to say that, okay, so let's talk about the first thing, which is about the usage of tablets. Okay, it's good that you could use tablets, but it will not be good for a long term run. Okay, it can cause the disadvantages to the usage of long term tablets, is that it can cause constipation, darkened stool, etc. Or you don't have to even use etc. You just say can cause constipation, darkened stool, and things like that. Okay, so so what can you go with, when you start speaking, try to connect things like that. So you said that long term tablets cannot be used, you need to you also need to tell him a solution. So how do you put the solution? What you can do is, like, you can say, but nothing to worry, I can give you other options to overcome this. Okay, so you are anticipating the patient's problem, that, okay, when you say that he cannot take tablets, so he will have a concern that, so how am I going to get rid of this? So you're anticipating the patient's problem, and you're giving a solution to it. So this is how you implement. You say that, not to worry, I can provide you another option, or I can give you an option. So that you can control your iron in your diet, and you emphasize on some dietary requirements. So with that, you provide some dietary requirements. Again again when you're talking about the dietary requirements, like different foods and things like that, you need to tell him that, yes, Some foods inhibit iron absorption, like coffee, and some foods increase absorption. So some are orange juice, whatever it is. Okay, and you can also give some suggestions. So this is how you go. This is how you go in your speaking. So this is how you go, task by task and task by task. Okay. Towards the end, see, you in this situation, you gave a very long explanation about, or you gave a very long explanation, okay, about the remedial factors, or the how to increase his diet, or the dietary options. So it is quite difficult for him to remember. Yes, it is always good that a leaflet is provided to the patient so that he has, he can plan his dietary regimens. Okay, so tell him that you will also provide him the dietary regimens. You can even ask what are the things which you need to avoid. Okay, maybe you can ask him to quickly say what are are you understanding? In between, when you're speaking, you can even ask questions like this. You're posing and asking, "Are you understanding what we are discussing right now?" So, could you just quickly summarize towards the end? You can even ask, "Could you summarize of what we have discussed today?" Okay. So all these things needs to be. So your planning should be done during that 3 minutes. Then, towards when you're speaking, you are just doing your execution. Clear? So this is how you do a speaking. So what I want you to do as a task today is that write yourself uh, you know uh, write yourself the conversation, okay, by yourself, maybe anticipating the questions and things like that with regards to this particular task from the patient. uh, Anticipate different answers, okay, and write the dialogues, and then compare it with the criteria which we have discussed today. So then you will have an idea about, are you on a good track or not? Okay. So I think you're clear with the today's speaking session. So do you have any questions? Please pop up the questions. Okay, Kavita George has a question. Can explain some remedies which is not explained in the cue card. Um, See, Kavita, what you have to do is, like, all you have to do is take from the cue card. It's not that every time you will have an idea about what to explain. So all you have to do is, like, take, something. They are not going to judge you with regards to your, medical knowledge. Okay, even if you say something which is not, right, with regards to the medical knowledge, it's absolutely fine. Okay, but what they are looking at is all these criteria, whether the criteria has been met or not. Okay, so definitely in each role play there would be some sort of clues and things like that. See, for example, let's say if I don't know anything about the foods which increase absorption rate. Okay, so that I have one example here, orange juice, I can just say that, or maybe some sort of other juices. So I create my own. So there is no such remedies which can be explained in this cue card. All you have to do is, like, there is nothing that you will be judged with regards to your medical knowledge. Don't worry about it. Okay, all you have to do is just has to perform the task as in being asked, whatever has been asked out there. And you have to do is that you have to do have planning, and you need to focus on the criterias and do your speaking. Okay, so that is what you should be practicing. And you should, so the best thing is that you write yourself these dialogues and compare that dialogues with the criteria, whether have you met, take each criteria and see if these criteria are being met, in your speaking. Okay, or maybe speak or do your speaking and try to record yourself and see. That would be quite difficult, I would say, at times. But it's always good that if you could write down the dialog box, and you can just look at the criterias and see this, and see if how much you have scored. Okay. Um, Sonia, yes, you have a question that is it compulsory to complete the task? Um, I would recommend if you could complete the task, but at times you may go beyond explanation, or maybe the patient takes on your explanation. It is not really necessary that it is not very important that you need to complete the task. Um, but the thing is that it would be good if you could complete the task, because then you would be controlling your, you know, uh, your speaking. So you would be in control rather than the listener or the interlocutor. Okay. Okay. So I do have another question here. Good morning, sir. I'm a registered working this one. I'm assigned to take care of you. How are you feeling now? I've seen your blood results in that iron level is okay. Iron level is a little low. Don't worry, we have sources for this to bring back your iron level into normal. Can I discuss you something regarding in this? Can I discuss? Okay, see, Sunny, Sun, Santika, yeah. Sorry, Sintika or Santika? Sintika, okay. Sintika, see, with regards to your thing, what I would really say is that good morning, I'm a registered nurse, good morning, that all these things are absolutely fine. But I'm assigned to take care of you. How are you feeling now? So, yes, definitely he or she would answer. I've gone through, see, the best thing is I have seen rather than seen, I have gone through your blood results, and it indicates that there is a deficiency in your iron levels. Okay, so that would be rather than showing as iron level is low. So that is actually a negative thought. Yeah. So okay, so there is a deficiency of iron in your blood. Okay, so that would do, and good that you did, like you're actually assuring that you're anticipating the patient's you know worries. uh, you don't have to worry about that. We have sources for this to bring back your iron levels to normal. Yes, that is a good reassuring. This is what reassuring is all about. So you are actually, putting the patient. You're not saying that I understand you have a worry about this. So this is how you should be reassuring the patients. Okay, by in these words. Good that you have done this. Okay, and do you mind discussing something? Do you mind discussing about this today? So you just ask a question. You ask a permission whether you can have some time with the patient so that you can discuss. Yes, that is absolutely good, except for some, structuring in your sentence construction. Okay. Other than that, it's absolutely fine. I'm okay. I'm completely fine with that. So, does anybody has any other questions? I think we are almost beyond the time when, with regards to speaking, we can keep going on and going on and go. We will come up with more sessions with regards to speaking and other sessions. Yeah. So, do you have any quick questions so that I can answer? Okay, I see that there are not much questions. Any questions? I hope this particular webinar session with regards to speaking module was quite informative for you. So I don't know unless and until you comment on that. So please, um, you know, if you have any questions, you can just ask me at any time. No problems in that. Okay. And yes, I would also like to tell you that you know. You will receive a mail by evening with regards and the link towards your tomorrow's classes. So that would be sent to you. So nothing to worry about. So please make sure that you check your emails, frequently by the evening to see if you have received the email, the link or not. Okay. And if you have any queries pertaining anything other than that, you may contact IRS on the number which has been provided to you. Okay. Okay. So any questions further to this? I hope everyone has understood today's session very well. At least you might have got an idea about how to go through or how to do a speaking. Not completely, but I think to an extent, I hope. Okay, with that, thank you everyone for being with me and listening to me, and I really appreciate all of you been putting your comments and your questions. I think I have tried my best to answer all your questions and things like that. So all I want to request to you is that practice well, keep yourself practicing more during these times, okay, and keep safe yourself. And as I said, today's task, I would like to tell you is that write down these dialogues so that you can improvise on your speaking as well. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, and you all have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.